So good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all. Welcome to this Soccer Hub Talks. My name is Ricardo Albeira. I'm the CEO and founder of Soccer Hub. Soccer Hub, as you know, it's an online education platform for soccer coaches, soccer analysts, soccer scouts. So this interview is live, so don't forget to ask questions. I will select some of the questions so I can ask our interviewer of today. One more thing, please write on the chat box the country where are you based in, and also some information about the job that you do, so we can adapt a bit our conversation to your special needs. So we are here today with Saul Isaksson-Hurst. Saul is a football coach specialized in ball mastery and 1v1 skills training, with 10 years experience of working in the Premier League Academy football with Tottenham Hotspur FC and Chelsea FC. He has a particular strength and interest in working in the foundation phase from 8 to 11 years old. And he is now the director of a groundbreaking new interactive homework football training program called My Personal Football Coach. So I'm going to invite now Saul to get in so we can start our conversation. Here he is. Hello, Saul. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Is everything okay over there?
Very good. Very well, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I have here some questions to you. Of course, this discussion is open to our audience, so if they want to ask some questions, I will highlight some of them so you can answer it. So my first question, Saul, is could you please talk a bit more about yourself and how did you become a soccer coach?
I played a bit at college, university, and then I was captain of the team there. And after university, went out to America, originally just to go for a summer to work in some of the soccer camps out there, the English camps that are run in America. Ended up staying out there for 2 years. Really enjoyed it. So that was my real how I got started in it. I came back to England while doing my teacher training. Got a job at Tottenham Hotspur in the community scheme and worked my way up into the academy. Spent 6 years there and then moved on to Chelsea FC, like you mentioned, and spent 4.5 years there. So that's really, in a bit of a nutshell, my coaching journey up to this point.
Okay, perfect. Could you please talk a bit more about your platform, My Personal Football Coach, and why did you decide to create it, Saul?
So I say my passion and my specialism is almost ball mastery and 1v1. Also, as well as working in academies, I've been an individual coach for over 15 years. I've worked with a lot of professional footballers, aspiring pros and grassroots players all around the world. So individual technical work was always a real important thing, what I did and still do. Even when I was working in the academy, setting players homework, technical homeworks to do away from training was always a pivotal part of the philosophy at Spurs. And then I took that to Chelsea with me. So it's just a natural progression really with what I did and to trying to create something where people, players, parents and clubs could go and, access some world-class technical training that players could do individually by themselves. And that's really what's unique about it. I think it's really set up for the individual players to use and go and take ownership of their technical development, and they can access it whether they're a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old or a 17+-year-old professional. So obviously work with individuals. We work with clubs like Wolverhampton Wanderers, LA Galaxy, utilize the platform, and grassroots clubs all around the world as well.
Okay, perfect, nice. So why are you particularly interested in working with the foundation phase? Because usually coaches want to go to the next level, to coach older players. Why is your particular interest this specific work with the foundation phase?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think one, because the type of work I do is more commonly seen with the younger players. And then I soon sort of realized and was told actually by the management that, actually I'd found my niche. I found a real strength, and I was, one of the best at what I was doing at that age group, and that's why I so quickly was very fortunate enough to rise up the ranks there at Tottenham Hotspur and then at Chelsea. So I identified the fact I found something I was really good at. I always aspired to be one of the best at the world at it, and I was sort of confident, and I'm confident now that I'm one of the best at that particular age group. And obviously that also because that sort of work is more commonly seen with the younger players. I mean, look, even now I work individually with Premier League footballers, international footballers, adults as well. But I mean, especially within the academy system, the more individual technical work's more commonly seen with that. And I sort of became apparent when I was a younger coach that, you know, I found my niche, my, you know, my specialism, if you like. And I always tell that to coaches when I speak to them. I think it's important to understand where your strengths are. Not everybody can be Pep Guardiola. No one can is designed to manage the first team, but finding where your strength is and trying to be a specialist in that area.
Yeah, we see that more and more oftenly. I would say that 2 weeks ago, I have here the discussion with a guy from Sporting of Portugal, and he said that it's more common to see younger coaches saying, okay, I want to work with the youth level, with the foundation phase. I don't have an ambition to become a senior level coach. And that, well, it's something that is changing, and that's good because I think the most important work is done at that level. So it's important that people are focused and motivated to work with that. But I would like to ask.
I think, yeah. Let me just sorry jump in there, Ricardo. But I think
Sure.
also some important to understand, like you said, it's the golden age of opportunity. It's the window of opportunity. If you miss that, it's a lot more difficult down the road. But I think as well as other things to factor in, you know, English football's changed a lot in the last 10 years. There's a lot more full-time roles at the younger age groups. I think traditionally, you know, there wasn't that many opportunities to work full-time with younger players. So it made sense for a lot of coaches to understand, well, I want to move up the ladder and get paid more and actually work full-time. And those sorts of opportunities are more associated with older players and those older roles, maybe.
So do you believe that being a foundation coach now in the UK, could be a full-time job at this moment, Saul?
Well, it is. I mean, so basically with the EPPP, which has been going now for nearly 10 years, so, you know, you find the majority of clubs now, the Category 1 clubs, the bigger academies, they'll have full-time staff, you know, with the major age group. So, for instance, Chelsea has a full-time member of staff who manages the 9s and the 10s. Someone else the 11s and the 12s and so on. And that's not unusual for clubs to have those full-time opportunities. So with more investment and more quality has come these opportunities at the younger age groups to create this sort of specialist roles.
Okay, but have you ever ambition to work at a senior level? Is something that you would like to think in the future to do, or will you still only focus in this?
No. Well, like I said, you know, for now, you know, I left Chelsea 2-3 years ago. Now, you know, obviously, most of my work's around my personal football coach. But like I said, I've been an individual coach for 15 years, and I work a lot. So this week, I've worked with a Premier League player, Championship player, an international player, academy player. So my day-to-day life, I'm working with players of all age groups anyway. And I would like to go in, but doing what? I mean, you know, my ideal role would be like an individual coach going back into an academy, working across the age groups, or maybe in the first team level or international level, something like that. That's, you know, that would be an ambition of mine to definitely do that and go and do what I do now, be that individual specialist, but bring that back into that environment. It's not something which is commonly seen at the moment, but I think that's the attitude that's generally changing. You're seeing more of these types of roles pop up as people understand the importance of working individually with players.
A few weeks ago, I interviewed Alan Pardew, and he was talking about the challenge of dealing with this kind of new players, these star players, you know. So what are the main challenges that a youth coach faces nowadays? Are they different from those from the past?
I mean, listen, it depends in what respect. I mean, generally the environment's changed a lot. Looking at somewhere like England, you have young players who are very wealthy at a very young age, and you have to help them deal with that and support them in understanding, you know, keeping their head on the desire and stuff like that. I think a lot's said about players, but I mean, in my experience, you know, I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of young England internationals, a lot of young players, and, you know, and they still have that desire to improve, that desire to get better, that focus to understanding that, you know, what they're doing at the club is not generally enough. They need to go and source there's someone else to help them with their own development. So I think a lot of players get a lot of bad press maybe, but I mean, it's definitely a challenging environment. But I mean, I know from my times working at Tottenham and Chelsea, a lot of time was spent with players trying to support them, understanding, you know, when they do get their first contracts, which can be very big and can, you know, maybe make people lose their focus a little bit. A lot of time goes into supporting players in that and understanding how to deal with that.
One of the main subjects that we are discussing right now here in Portugal, it's the role of the parents in the process. Do you feel that the parents are a big intervenient in all of this process, and that they are becoming more and more an obstacle in this process? And what kind of strategies do you use to deal with this specific challenge, Saul?
If you talk to any academy coach, they'll say, what's one of the biggest problems or issues? They'll say the parents. So I mean, and that's, you know, but listen, you know, that's not saying all parents are a problem, but what's saying is that, I mean, it's up to an academy from day one to help educate the parents about the process. And I always say this about all the parents I've worked with, and the parents I'm working with now who are in academy. I say, you know, really, you've got to trust the academy that you're there, trust their experts, and really trust the process they're in, and really buy into that. But I mean, there is, you know, like I said again, my experience working at these big clubs here, a lot of time, an awful lot of time was spent trying to get the parents on board, educate them, understanding what they're doing, understanding to how they should support their players, not only when they're in training, but also when they're on the way home, and how they should be communicating to their players. So it's a big area. And, you know, a lot of, you know, like I said, if you ask academy coaches, they might say, you know, are the bane of my life are these parents, because you do get a lot of characters, and it is about understanding how to juggle that and, you know, and support them into supporting their child. But I mean, you know, that's part of the game which you got to deal with.
Yeah. Still considering the kind of job that you have, do you believe that the clubs from the UK, from the Premier League, they look for a specific profile of a player, and do they and yourself make an effort to develop those characteristics to answer to those needs of the club? Do you feel that there is a kind of a profile of a player that will play at the Premier League?
I think if you look around, you can look at different clubs, different academies, and they have different profiles, if you call it. So they have different, you know, different sorts of players they look at. So, for instance, when we were at Tottenham Hotspur, there was very much an emphasis on gifted young real technical players, real skillful players, and often they turned out being small little technical players. At Chelsea, they were looking for more maybe those physical assets, a lot more physically developed, who had real pace and power, as well as those technical attributes as well. But I mean, in answer to your other question, yeah, I made really my reputation as an individual coach and supporting players and getting signed to academies. So, for instance, what we did, you know, we understand if a player goes in and they're a right winger or something, or a forward player, we're trying to break that, trying to understand when they go into their trial situation, what to not only anticipate and expect, but trying to think about what's going to make them stand out from the crowd. And so, for instance, you know, if it's a wide player, the end product, the crosses, the shots, the 1v1 is really important, you know, and being those, so really working on those key areas, trying to break those areas down into our sessions. So when they go into the academy environment, that training environment, then they're trying to be more successful, and they got more chance of being successful.
Okay, so we have here one question from Philip Tels. Philip Tels is based in Canada, although he's Portuguese. And the question is, what is your opinion about one-on-one coaching, and also this new generation of YouTube coaches that are more concerned about making a pretty video than developing the client, aka the player?
Yeah, I mean, so what's my opinion on one-on-one coaching? I think it's key. You know, it's a vital part of player development. Players working away from the game is vital. I mean, yeah, listen, we live in a social media, you know, world, so you're going to get a lot of people make a lot of money from not doing a lot. I mean, yeah, I'm hypercritical. A lot of people who do their ball mastery exercises and they're just making. One of my clients actually was approached. He plays in the championship. He was approached by one of these YouTubers to do a film, a video, and we saw he did one with a keeper from Derby, and I said obviously don't do it, and it just was farcical. It looked like ridiculous. It was like being in a circus. So I mean, I think, you know, but the problem is obviously a lot of parents buy into this. I mean, listen, for me it's just always trying to put quality content out, something that's obviously going to be beneficial to the player, and trying to avoid those circus type performer sort of videos. But I mean, listen, that's part of the world we live in.
Yeah, that's it, Saul. I have to ask you this question, Saul. About the football coaches and the football coaches in the UK, in the Premier League, and in the professional competitions in England. Why are there so few English coaches coaching those teams? Why do the clubs usually look for foreign coaches to coach in the UK? Do you have an explanation for that, Saul?
I don't have an explanation. I mean, it's difficult because a lot of people say maybe the opportunity is not there. They're not give the opportunity. People prefer to go away. I think personally, I think the English game has come a long way in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, in the last 20 years. Obviously, Wenger coming in, making a big change, the Mourinho, and then Guardiola. So I think, the old style English play, your 4-4-2, stick it in the mix, so quite direct play, which is the English football stuff for many generations. That's really doesn't represent modern football anymore. So we're looking for more young English coaches, people like Eddie Howe, still play that formation, play more of a modern type game. And so I think the next generation of coaches who've played under these coaches will then start to appear. So, but you do having Graham Potter's at Brighton. I think slowly that's changing, but I think that's obviously a reflection on how the game's changed here. So you look at Gareth Southgate and the big changes, the great dramatic changes he's made, not only to the English game, but the perception of the English game around the world, and proving English players can actually play modern football. So I think that's a reflection of that. And I think as we move along, more and more English coaches will start to come out and play a bigger part in the Premier League, playing modern football, which is really important, I believe.
Sure, hope so. Another question from Philip Tells is a more technical question. Biggest question that everyone asks themselves: opposed versus unopposed mythology. What do you think, Saul?
Yeah, I think it's actually it's a bit of a myth in itself, the question, because if you look at any top academy in the world, I've worked with some, I've traveled around the world, visiting the best, you'll find elements of both everywhere. And every single player, top player, works away from the game unopposed. So the question is not unopposed or opposed, it's about where and when to do it, and when's the most productive, efficient time to do it. So if you're spending your whole session doing unopposed work, or then maybe that's not the most productive way of doing it. But it's a key part, and this is why I talk to coaches all around the world and say if players aren't working with the ball individually, specifically, then they're not going to technically develop. They're going to be miles off. So it's just about understanding where and when to do it. So I used a good example. So for instance, when I was at Chelsea, I'd do maybe 20% of unopposed work in a session and 80% of game formatted stuff. Do you know what I mean? So really, it's really important to understand the importance of, game style practices when you're working with a team, but understanding that, especially with the younger players, that individual ball work's really important. And then that's, of course, then when the homework comes in, working away from games becomes really key as well, especially maybe if you don't have the players that much all week, through the week, through the month.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you, Philip, once again for your question. Saul, who would you say that is your role model as a youth soccer coach, or even as a soccer coach? Do you have a kind of a reference that you would like to share with us?
Well, I was very lucky to have a lot of really important mentors in my career. Where I started off in America with Tim Bradbury, who's like a real pivotal part, and Keith Boannis here with the BFA. But obviously working at Tottenham Hotspur with Chris Ramsey, who's now at QPR, he's still for me a pioneer and really changed the game. And no one gets near him in terms of youth development. He's he's an idealist and he's backs it up. So people like him and Danny Butt, I worked with him at Tottenham as well, and then moving to Chelsea with so many coaches. I've been lucky to learn. I'm really interested now in terms of like culture and looking at academies. Like I visit Ajax a lot and Dynamo Zagreb, and understanding where how clubs create a culture there, and then that develops certain types of player. Obviously looking at Sport in Lisbon as well. You mentioned those guys earlier. And all Portugal. There's and Porto. You're coming from Porto. The types of players that come out of those cultures as well. So that really interests me. So, for me, it's just about trying to see as many of these environments as possible and to keep my own development going.
Okay, so one last question. What are your plans for the future? Do you have something established, a major goal that you want to achieve in the next few years? So,
for me, my ambition is always to be one of the best in the world at what I do. So to continue to develop, continue to work individually with players, and to try and really develop my personal football coach and get it out to as many players in the world, whether they're beginners or pros. So, we're working with many clubs, trying to work. Maybe, the ideal would be get a federation on board. Maybe a federation wants to come. We could help upskill all the players in the country, and just to keep working. We've got lots of different things coming out. So just to keep on learning, keep on developing, and try and support as many players and clubs and federations around the world as possible.
Okay, so thank you very much for your time. Thank you for taking this hour of the day to share some of your knowledge with us. Thank you for being here at Soccer Hub. I have the wish that all of your wishes and all of your goals are achieved, of course. Thank you once again for being with us, and see you soon, Saul.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Bye.